without you. Dana was so sinful they had to cover up Jesus. Father Davies, thank you for having us here in this beautiful church. And Father Davies actually lent us his organist, Blake Howard. Father Davies has one of the largest organs in California. Dana would wait for laughs. And he would say, "Come on, that was funny, come on." I started to write something, and I normally never have a problem writing. Dana was very encouraging and motivating in that sense. When Dana would write an article, he took it very seriously. It would take him probably 3 times as long as a normal person to write 1,200 words. He really carefully and meticulously went through every line to make sure that he wasn't repeating words and was using interesting words, and he was coloring the paragraphs really well. He was really proud of that. But when he didn't have anything to write about, he would say, "I got nothing." And it wasn't that I got nothing, I just had too much. I spent a third of my life with this man. When I met Dana, I was 24 years old. I had toured around half of the world in musicals for about 5 years. Dana was 44 years old and had toured around the world with musical acts. So a lot of people didn't really know my background. So they saw a 24-year-old with a 44-year-old. You know how that looks. I know you queens out there. But the first time I ever saw Dana, I immediately thought of Spencer Tracy. And I know he has friends that thought the same thing. I said to him, I said, "You know, you look like a young Spencer Tracy." And he said, "Spencer Tracy was never young." Well, I sure did love him. He was my hero. To spend 13 years of your life with one person, 37 gay years, especially from the time you're 24 and then well into your 30s, those are very formative years. So I learned a lot from Dana. I learned how to entertain, how to write, how to produce. Dana very welcoming brought me in on several of his productions, and I could go on and on and on about that part of his life. Kevin James is going to come up later and sort of talk about that part of his life, but Dana's been all around me for the last 2 months. I'll get in the car and some song will play that wouldn't make sense. Maybe I'm making it make sense, or maybe I'm just searching for him to be around me. But there was this song that first played that I knew he was around me. Music was obviously a constant theme in our lives. I got in the car. I was on my way to his mother's house to pick up and help his brother clean out the house and do what needed to be done. And I put on my spot. It was a torrential downpour that day. It hadn't rained in California in years. Well, it seemed like years. Months. It had been months since it had rained, and it was pouring like cats and dogs. And I got in the car, I put on Spotify, and I said, all right, give me a sign. And the first song that played was this song called Cheerleader, which I had never heard before. Are there any South Pasadena High School alumni here? All right, nice. Okay, well, then you know Dana Miller was a cheerleader at South Pasadena High School. So I'm going to challenge you, South Pas High. What was the cheer that Dana did that got him suspended, that he did in front of a stadium full of people? What was that cheer that he did? Do you know what it is? Nuts and bolts! Nuts and bolts! We got screwed! I'd love to tell that story. I probably heard it 97 times. I have a lot written in front of me, and like I said, I was trying to write a eulogy, and none of it was really flowing together. I think what I really need to explain is how I told my boyfriend that my husband died. That was weird. Dana was an alcoholic, and he didn't hide it. He wrote about it, in fact. And I'm telling you this because I think it's important to understand the depth to which he suffered from this awful, awful disease. It's an awful disease as terrible as a cancer. He developed severe pain in his back, and in 2008, the same year that we got married, and he was having a hard time with his sciatic nerve, and he was having a hard time walking. So we got him help. We took him to a chiropractor, we took him to a back specialist, we went to UCLA. I mean, we did a lot. We got an inversion machine. It wouldn't go away. The only solution was supposedly surgery. Dana was in such a tremendous amount of pain, and as you know, from the outside, pain is immeasurable. No doctor can diagnose pain. Only the person that's suffering from the pain knows how painful it is. And he was in a tremendous amount of pain. And ironically, he did not like the way that Valium or any sort of drug made him feel. The only drug that would ease his pain was alcohol. Now, I know all of his close friends know that he liked to throw back a few glasses of wine. As a matter of fact, he was called Lady Chardonnay. But it increased when his pain increased. And it got very bad. It got so bad that we had to do an intervention. And at that intervention was Dan Baker, Jed from the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, David Miller, his sister-in-law, me, and Uncle Bill. He accepted our gift to go to rehab, and his rehab was in Riverside. So we said, well, we can't tell him that he's going to Riverside, he'll never go. So we called it Palm Springs Adjacent. You're going to beautiful Palm Springs Adjacent for 30 days of rehab. He went, and he loved it, and he embraced it, and he went to meetings, and he was successful. He won. He got to 90 days, and then he relapsed. And then he tried to stop on his own, and he had a seizure, and that put us in Cedars-Sinai for a week. I love their cafeteria, by the way. And then his friend David Miller, who I would describe as a hero, came in and flew out one of the best rehab coaches in the country from New York, rented an apartment at Oakwood Apartments, and gave Dana the gift of a one-on-one rehab coach for 30 days, all while maintaining a job at AIDS Healthcare Foundation. Thank you, Michael Weinstein. That was his most successful run. He went past 120 days, and he was so proud of those chips. Then he tried to quit again, and he had another seizure, went to the hospital, did a detox, and that was where it ended for me, unfortunately. The last 4 years that we were together, that is what had happened between us. And the last year and 9 months, we didn't talk or see each other. It was just an email here and there. Although ironically, the week that he died, he called me. It's the first time he called me in over a year, well over a year, and left a message. But I'm gonna wrap this up because there's plenty to be said. And I know that this seems really sad. We've got some great musicians coming up here, but I wanted to read to you this letter that he had sent to me, just because it means so much to me. And I have to constantly remind myself that this is who Dana was. The magical Dana that I knew, that I saw create magic. The only way I can describe it was this person. When he came out of this first rehab, it was like he had turned into a different person. He went in looking like an old man, and he came back out young again, and vibrant, and excited, and ready to go, and rock and roll. So here is the letter that he sent me. He taped 2 of his 1-week AA chips onto the letter. He says, "Reid, why now? Been ruminating over the past few days and have had an epiphany. Right now, the timing is perfect. I have used HIV/AIDS as my sorrow excuse now for almost 25 years. Lots of it good, little of it good for me." Then he did a little smiley face. 2 months ago, I produced a candlelight vigil, Remember AIDS, on the 30th anniversary. God willing, come fall, I'll produce my magic 20th anniversary idea. What the hell better time to lock in 2011 as the year I stopped drinking? ? So that's where I be at this moment. Out of the tree of life, I picked me a plum. Still, it's a real good bet that the best is yet to come. LOL. He actually wrote LOL. Actually, it was hectic. Guess what? And then he said in parentheses, guess what book I just finished? Then he says, here in Palm Springs adjacent, it's 7:30 wake up, 4 meetings all over Riverside every day, the gym, pool, chores, then bed. Fairly nice gaggle of geese here. A lot of meth folk, but for the most part, I like it. I quite like my counselor, Jerry. He's 57 and looks 75. He's waiting for a liver transplant the past year and a half. That's what happens when you're young. He says, please email David Miller and ask him for me what meetings he hits. That be it for now. Love to you and the pups. And Ryan, quite honestly, thank you. XOXOXO D. That was the real Dana Miller. Now, because Father Davies was so generous with his church and with the organ, I'd like to ask Bob and Ben to come up for offerings. And please put in the offering whatever you can. It will help. As you heard Father Davies say, this was the only church in the 80s that would allow people with AIDS to come in. And as you also know, advocacy for HIV and AIDS was Dana's #1 passion. Thank you. That was Jimmy Reid on the saxophone and Sudbury on the violin. Jimmy, actually, when he was first starting out, well, kind of when you were first starting out, right? When you were a lot younger, Jimmy, Dana managed him. That was at the beginning of my relationship with Dana, when Dana had a management company called Cherry North King. All right, are you ready for some more music? We gotta get this service going. I know, you guys, it's really sad. Maybe I should read should I read a Dana-ism?
Yes.
I'll give you a Dana-ism. I went through, one of the things that happens when you're still legally married to your partner, and one of the lucky things that happens is you get to take over their email account. That was fun. This almost didn't happen. Okay, he says, let's see, let me make a good one. So these were in his draft files, they hadn't been written. Okay, here's one. Most people know I don't do much. I write a bit, fight with my brother, sculpt seagulls in pastel clay, cook lobster, wash cars, yellow dogs in my canyon, and knit. I go to the market, buy stuff I do not need. Dana Miller. Here's another one. As I enter my 90s, maybe I need to do his voice. As I enter my 90s, I'm truly fascinated by what high school brought us, the friends for no reason I've lost, and the new ones that I have known forever and now reach out and make me happy. My high school experience was marvelous, and I think it important to remember. That goes to you, South Pass. We love that high school. Here's another one. So, I'm 94 years old, with a hernia, 2 bad hips, insanity, and a questionable heart, but I think my penis shrunk. He actually said that I could say that. I asked him actually, I said, why can't you say for Christ's sake, if it's for Christ's sake? He said, well, you can't say it if it is actually for Christ's sake. Anyway, in the 80s, Dana had a big break working for Mike Love at Brother Records, and introduced him to an artist that was already huge. He had won a Grammy, as a matter of fact. Dana loved him, and I first got to meet him, this is maybe going on 10 years ago, and his lovely wife, Barbie. And I think it's very important to the quilt of Dana's life for him to be here, and I'm so glad that he could be here. Please welcome Mr. Rick Springfield. We didn't have a very large budget. We didn't have a very large budget.
Okay, I'm more I wrote and recorded this song when Dana was my manager. So it's about the death of my father. I think it's some kind of book.
Far distant future
How about Dana's favorite?
Well, this was Dana's favorite with my songs. I know you like the Beach Boys a lot more, but I'll make you guys sing. I see the tattoos, but cartoons of my heart. I see the joy of the journey. You know what I feel always loving you, but you're the top of the system, living from this to the right. On the walk I am, the middle of somebody. In the lane to middle of somebody. No way to middle of somebody. Don't pretend it's yours, but you look too far. One night. It's the biggest hit I had on any magazine. Your eyes are wide, your skin so white. You run down some more bed. You got good teeth, you know how to fight. You're so good out there, you got your reason to love it, man. You're a constant living from this to the right. Oh, to run better. It's the way to better. Don't wait to middle of somebody. Don't pretend it's yours. You look too far. One night. One night. One night.
Thank you, Rick Springfield. Never thought I'd be saying that. Thanks, Rick. Up next, to give you some history about Dana. This next gentleman was one of the first people that I met because of Dana, and Dana was very proud. And sort of, he felt like he was a mentor to him, although Kevin did just fine on his own. When Kevin became a host on the radio, Dana was very proud. He didn't understand why he wanted to go from an attorney to a radio host, but he was proud nonetheless. And then particularly proud when Kevin ran for mayor of the city of Los Angeles, and subsequently was appointed as the president of the Public Works Board by our mayor, Garcetti. So please welcome Kevin James.
When you are speaking about Dana in this circumstance, you prepare for it. Dana would have. In the darkness of the height of the AIDS epidemic, Dana believed that too many of us went to too many memorial services at too young of an age. Here we all are today at Dana's memorial service, celebrating a life that, like so many others in our community, ended too soon. AIDS did not take Dana, but AIDS consumed him. Dana was well known as a high-profile board chair of AIDS Project Los Angeles. Outside of APLA's headquarters, Dana was known for growing the agency into the second largest AIDS service organization in America in those critical years, which likely meant it was the second largest AIDS service organization in the world at that time. Gay men's health crisis in New York City was the largest at the time. Inside of APLA's headquarters, Dana was known for his full-time commitment to APLA and for fiercely micromanaging the agency. Many would criticize Dana for his management style. And of course, Dana knew that. But he was unapologetic. He cared deeply about the agency's staff, many of whom are here today. But Dana would let nothing get in the way of the vision that he had for what APLA could do for those living with HIV and AIDS, for what APLA could be for LA County and for California, and the message that it could send throughout the world in a time of crisis. When Dana was talking to me about the importance of joining the board of APLA, Dana reminded me that if we did not all join the fight against this horrible disease, that 18 years old would be middle age for gay men in our community. Unfortunately, for way too many of our brothers in the 1990s, it already was. Dana's vision for bringing the biggest stars in the world to APLA's Commitment to Life event, including Elton John, who Dana was very close to, Elizabeth Taylor, Tom Cruise, Barbra Streisand, Madonna, Cher, Neil Diamond, Tom Hanks, and Bette Midler, just to name a few, and the most powerful leaders in the world, including Hillary Clinton, and top studio and business leaders as well, such as Jeffrey Katzenberg and David Geffen and Edgar Bronfman Jr., was not just to sell tickets at a premium price to bring more money into APLA for the benefit of its clients. To Dana, it was much more than that. During one of many discussions with Dana around the Commitment to Life event, I asked him why he worked so hard to get only the biggest names at the time. Dana told me that the big names brought the headlines, and the headlines brought readers. And the more people that learned about the ravages of AIDS, the sooner we would stop its devastation. To Dana, it was less about the great show that they put on in front of 2,000 people inside the Universal Amphitheater. It was more about educating America about what was happening and the urgent need to stop it. Perhaps the happiest I ever saw Dana was at Frank Sinatra's 80th birthday party at the Shrine Auditorium. It was in November 1995. Dana absolutely loved Frank Sinatra. ABC taped the event at the Shrine to be televised as a primetime special in December of that year. And of course, Dana's handiwork was all over the star-studded event, such that proceeds from that amazing night were split between the Barbara Sinatra Children's Clinic in Palm Springs, which was an obvious choice for the Sinatras, and AIDS Project Los Angeles, which was not an obvious choice for the Sinatras, but a direct result of Dana's consistent persistence on behalf of those living with HIV and AIDS in our community. Dana believed that the national television audience that would watch the 80th birthday celebration of Frank Sinatra and would read the national stories related to the event was a key demographic to learn that the Sinatras were so supportive of an AIDS service organization. The Sinatras graciously agreed that APLA would be the other charity to benefit from the event. Once again, Dana Miller succeeded in generating positive headlines related to the AIDS epidemic when the public was still very much in fear of those afflicted and affected by AIDS. Dana's introduction to the fight against AIDS came upon the loss of his partner, Matthew Murray. In the years that I worked with Dana on the APLA board and on AIDS issues, Dana spoke often of Matthew's death. Dana would call him my Matthew. The horrible memories related to the brutal nature of AIDS that caused so many innocent people in our community to suffer so significantly, including Dana's beloved Matthew, was all Dana needed to reflect upon, to get another dose of energy when it was so often seemed to him like he was fighting an unwinnable war. Dana's commitment to HIV and AIDS sufferers lasted until the day he died. In the later years of his life, he worked with the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. Dana loved his work with the HF, and he was honored to be able to stay in the fight. Even as Dana struggled with his own illness, he continued to make sure that the annual Toy Box Party that provides thousands of toys to children of APLA's clients was always a success, even this most recent event last December. Dana's work related to the AIDS epidemic and on behalf of APLA was his most serious work, and I believe it was the work he was most committed to. We all know that there was a lighter side to Dana's life too. Dana knew the importance of enjoying the lighter side of life. After all, other than Dana Miller, how many people do you know that have actually been featured on Robin Leach's Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous? Dana was. And I can still picture that video of Dana strolling along the beach outside of the Malibu colony with those two very well-groomed Shetland ponies. Well, they were otherwise known as dogs. They were Newfoundlands, to be exact, with the names Bo and Cosmo. To be even more unique than having two Newfoundlands living in the Malibu colony, Dana's Newfoundlands were a different coloration than the more common black or brown coat. Dana once explained to me that the color of Bo and Cosmo's coat was Landseer. Spell that for you. Which those of us who knew those dogs simply called white. Silky white, but white. The foundation of the Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous feature on Dana was his very successful radio business called Entertainment Radio Networks, which produced numerous syndicated radio shows sold to radio stations around the country, including Entertainment Tonight with Lisa Gibbons, Countryline USA, and Fight Back with David Horowitz. Just imagining the varying content among those three shows demonstrates how diverse, expansive, and complicated Dana Miller really was. Beyond ERN, Dana was a well-known music and talent manager representing stars including, of course, Rick Springfield, Andy Gibb, Corey Hart, Ty Herndon, among many others. Dana's signature voice, distinct and professional, was always heard on Entertainment Radio Networks. He really did have a voice made for radio. As self-effacing as Dana was, of course, he would always say that he had a face made for radio. We all know that wasn't true. He definitely had a radio voice. Steve Tisch told Frontiers magazine that Dana Miller was charismatic, charming, and energetic. And all of Dana's charisma, charm, and energy was most prominently on display when he was speaking in front of audiences at one of many APLA events. Dana was a natural when it came to making a public presentation, and he knew to never speak for too long. When Dana would finish speaking, the audience could always sense that a real leader was exiting the stage. Since Dana's passing in December, I read that he wrote his very popular column for 12 years. I know he loved writing his column. I'm sure that while he appreciated the opportunity to publish it on a regular basis and was always thankful to the media outlets that did so, especially Frontiers, it was a real exercise in restraint for Dana. We all knew him. I'm sure for all he did include his column that there was an equal amount of information that he was holding back. Dana was amazing in his ability to succeed as an entrepreneur in the entertainment industry and at the same time move APLA into the leading AIDS service organization west of Mississippi and still find time for all of us, his friends. us that knew Dana dating back to the days of Mark's Restaurant, I want you to take just a moment to remember all of the great dinners and Sunday brunches at Mark's with Dana, most of which he likely picked up the tab for. Dana was very generous to all of us. While too many years have passed from the Mark's Restaurant days to remember many specific details, I do clearly remember that our dinners there were filled with laughter, gossip, sometimes really good gossip, relationship scandal in our community, some of it may have been mine, who was hosting the next really fun party, talk about amazing trips to Fire Island or South Beach or San Francisco or Palm Springs, places we all went, and talk around local politics and political events. Dana had a terrific sense of humor. Sometimes it was biting sense of humor, but he was funny, even if it was at our own expense, or often even his. I can tell by looking at who's here today that at some point, whether you wanted it or not, whether you asked for it or not, Dana likely gave you some unsolicited advice. Most likely, it was styled with his use of brutal honesty. It might have been advice about your career. He did that often with those of us that have changed careers a few times over the years. It might have been advice about your relationship. He did that often with those of us that changed relationships a few times over the years. Or it might have been simply because he sensed that you needed a friend. Whatever the reason, Dana did that for us because he loved us. Some of us here were lucky enough to spend time in Dana's closest circle of friends at various times over the years. I want to spend a few minutes reflecting on those memories because they demonstrate what a unique, happy, fun, exciting, and unlikely life that Dana was fortunate enough to live, even though he was taken from us too soon. I will always remember the Oscar parties. Those were unforgettable nights that I got to enjoy from the mid-1990s to the early 2000s with many of you that are here today. When Dana left the APLA board after his term ended, he immediately volunteered significant time to the Elton John AIDS Foundation, and he joined their board of directors. Dana was one of Elton's very close friends, especially in those years. And Dana went on to produce many of the famous Oscar parties that the Elton John AIDS Foundation continues to host to this day. Dana was amazing in his work related to those Oscar parties. He always bought the table, and some of us here today always got to go. Once again, Dana was our host. The parties were frankly unbelievable. In the early days of the Elton John AIDS Foundation Oscar parties, we always stood out because we were the ones that were not famous. Everyone else in the room was, and every major star at the time was there. Dana had again succeeded at creating headlines that cast the fight against AIDS in a positive light and helped to make it more mainstream. And the time we all had with Dana and our friends was special. Today, the Elton John AIDS Foundation Oscar Party is known worldwide, and I was recently told by one of the planners that by the end of the night on Sunday night, more than 1,000 people will pass through its doors on Oscar night. Dana Miller helped create that. Then there were the holiday season trips to Acapulco. Dana would rent a spectacular home for a week in Acapulco between Christmas and New Year's. The house was always equipped with a chef and service staff. Dana filled the house with friends. All we had to do was find our way to Acapulco, and for a solid week, Dana was our host. To say those week-long vacations were fun would be an understatement. The laughter and the gossip promoted by Dana's quick wit were on steroids during those crazy vacations in Acapulco. Somehow, some way, Dana was able to find 10 to 12 guys that, although friends, normally wouldn't last 48 hours on a vacation together without major drama and someone storming home early in a huff. Put those guys together in Acapulco and create an environment that was unforgettable. Since the vacation FODs, or Friends of Dana, worked so well in Acapulco, Dana did decide one summer to to really test the group's ability to vacation together. He chartered a yacht over a long weekend and put all of the 12 friends together in a space that was much more confined than a hilltop villa overlooking Acapulco Bay. Of course, the yacht came complete with the chef and service crew. And who knew that it was actually Dana Miller who invented the Atlantis cruise concept? It's the only cruise I've ever been on, and having spent 3 days on the yacht with Dana and our friends, I completely understand how the Atlantis company has been so successful putting a couple of thousand on the same boat at the same time. All Dana wanted to do was create wonderful memories for his friends. He did that. Dana was a consummate host, and I'm so glad that we were all invited to his party. To Hugh, Brandon, and Ryan, Dana's surviving partners, thank you for sharing your own time with Dana with all of us over the years. Dana was an incredible friend to us. In fact, Dana's friendship is still being felt throughout Los Angeles through the thousands of clients that depend on APLA or AHF for many of its services. Most of them never got to meet Dana. But all of us here today can remember something during our relationship with Dana that he did for us, simply because he knew his friendship was needed. Something that goes beyond all of the dinner tabs that he picked up, or the drinks that he bought us, or the event tickets that he gave us, or the parties he invited us to. This level of friendship took many different forms. And while Dana could rarely be trusted to keep juicy secrets confidential, a lot of what Dana did for us, his closest friends, very few people ever knew about. I know about a few of them. Dana made sure that more than one APLA staffer in need found their way to professional help. Dana helped a friend who had lost his way find a job. Dana offered and provided financial assistance to a close friend who was way too proud to ask for it. Dana found legal representation for a friend who made a mistake and needed a lawyer, and even paid for the lawyer. Dana officiated the wedding ceremony of two very close friends that he deeply cared for, and it meant as much to Dana to officiate the wedding ceremony as it did for them to get married. And Dana opened his home for months to a close friend who needed somewhere to stay after a heartbreaking end to a happy relationship. Thank you, Dana, for all you did for us. Everyone in here knows how significant Dana's challenges were in the later years of his life. We all saw it. And I'm willing to bet that almost everyone in here at some point during their relationship with Dana was mad at him. I'm sure at some point he was mad at virtually every one of you. But all of our lives were made better because we knew Dana Miller so well. Our community, our quality of life was improved because Dana was here. And at the end of the day, that's all Dana wanted from life. He told me that. I'm sure he told many of you that too. If you asked Dana what word he would most want to be remembered by that described his life, I believe he would say humanitarian. Dana's life was full because we all would agree.
Thank you, Kevin James. In closing, I just want to thank everyone for coming today. Dana would have loved to look out at all of your familiar faces celebrating him. I hope that you do continue to celebrate him. He deserves it. he certainly deserves it. One last thing. I just made that sound like I was going to say something really meaningful, but I'm introducing the next person. But I did want to say, Kevin James, Bo and Cosmo were Great Pyrenees. Well, we did have Newfoundlands after that, but Bo and Cosmo are up there. I know they would want to remember as well. Dana loved his dogs. Dana sure did love his dogs, and we had, when we were together, we had Bo and Cosmo, and we had Lucy, and Hank, and Pearl. Pearl is still here, and I need to thank my parents for taking care of her from time to time when I had to go out of town. I'd like to thank all of my friends for all of their support. It's been a very tough couple of months, probably the toughest of my life, I can confidently say. And thank you to all of you again. The first words that came to mind when Dana passed away were the little-known words to the opening of Over the Rainbow. In the 1980s, Dana managed a man who was known for a phenomenal voice. His voice was an instrument, and he became well known around the world for this song that he sang. I asked him if he would sing it today, and he graciously agreed right away. So please welcome Sam Harris.
Yes, Dana was my manager in the mid-'80s. I was just a kid, and he was 6 years older than me. But he had this cocky, sort of casual, arrogant confidence that belied his age. I think it was actually a business tool because he looked 25 for like 25 years, and so he had to do something to puff himself up. But we would go into these fancy meetings, with the record company or with a TV studio or something, and Dana had a way of sitting in a chair with his legs crossed and his shoulders back and his head slightly cocked that made everybody feel like we were in his office, wherever we were. He ran the show. We had a lot of adventures here and also in Europe doing record promotion. As the years went on, Dana acquired a softness and a pureness and a goodness that also belied his age. Sort of a goodness that many of us never evolved to, no matter how long we're on this planet. I would get a random call after not talking or hearing from him for quite some time. Just a random call saying, I was thinking of you and I love you and I wanted you to know that. How many of us do that? How many of us do that? And I had a number of those calls from Dana. A lesson for me, certainly. As Ryan said, he mentioned this song. Dana had asked me through the years to sing at a number of functions and benefits for different AIDS organizations, and he always requested this song. So I have to get a note, though, from my piano phone, because I'm going solo. Oh, I'm on mute. As I should be. When all the world is a hopeless jungle, and the raindrops tumble all around, heaven opens the magic lane. When all the clouds darken up the skyway, there's a rainbow highway to be found, leading from your window pane to a place if happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why,
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome back Father Davies.
The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, keep your hearts and minds in the knowledge and love of God, and of his Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord. And the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost